Don't assume that you don't have the proper ratings in order to qualify for TDIU. And that's because you probably don't know about the one disability rule. Welcome to VA Made Easy. I'm VA-accredited attorney and U.S. Army combat veteran Ed Farmer. Today, we're going to talk about 5 situations where multiple disabilities count as one disability for purposes of qualifying for unemployability or TDIU. If you've been denied your claim, visit me at vetlawoffice.com. I provide zealous advocacy. We'll help you obtain those buddy statements. We have access to medical nexus opinions. We'll prep you before your CMP exams. The consultation's free. Set it up at vetlawoffice.com. But for now, let's get into it. All right, so in order to qualify for unemployability or TDIU, you typically have to meet certain rating requirements. So either you have one disability rated at 60% or higher, or you have a combined rating of 70% with at least one disability rated at 40% or higher. So sometimes vets think they don't qualify for unemployability because either they don't have that one disability, the one rated at 60, or the one rated at 40 when you have multiple disabilities. But there are rules that say, well, sometimes multiple disabilities count as one disability, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The first rule about when multiple disabilities count as one disability for purposes of qualifying for TDIU is when you have multiple disabilities of the same extremity. So let's say you're service-connected for 3 things. Your right knee at 20%, your right ankle at 20%, and then your right foot at 20%. Obviously, those are all part of the same extremity. When you combine 20, you get 55, which is rounded up to 60, but you need one disability at 60 or combined at 70 to qualify for TDIU. However, when you have multiple disabilities in the same extremity, that counts as one disability for TDIU purposes. So now the 20 is 55, and it becomes one disability at 60. No, I'm not adding here. This is not 20 plus 20 plus 20. I'm using the VA's combined rating table to combine these. 20 is actually 55 that's rounded up. So when you're trying to apply these rules in your own situation, make sure you don't add. Use the VA combined rating table or one of those online calculators as long as you think it's accurate. All right, the second rule of when multiple disabilities count as one disability is when you have multiple disabilities of both either the left and right upper extremity or the left and right lower extremity. All right, for example, let's say you have these ratings. You're 30% for migraines, 30% for PTSD. You have your left shoulder rated at 20, and you have your right shoulder rated at 20. So all those ratings combine to 70%. But in order to qualify for TDIU, at least one of those needs to be rated at 40 or higher, and you don't have that. But do you? You have both your left and right shoulder rated at 20% apiece. For TDIU purposes, the VA considers that one rating, and now you meet all the qualifications for TDIU. You're 70% total, and the left and right shoulders count as one disability rated at 40%. All right, the third time when multiple disabilities count as one disability for purposes of qualifying for TDIU is when there's multiple disabilities of the same body system. So if you have multiple disabilities affecting the same body system, it counts as one disability for purposes of qualifying for TDIU. By body system, I mean parts of the body that have similar functions, such as the orthopedic system, digestive system, respiratory system, cardiovascular renal system, neuropsychiatric system. If you have multiple disabilities in one of those systems, it counts as one for TDIU purposes. Let me give you an example. Say you're 30% for coronary artery disease, you're 20% for type 2 diabetes, you're 10% for hypertension, and you're 10% for chronic kidney failure. That's 60% with multiple ratings. You need either one disability at 60% or combined at 70 and one at 40. But since all these conditions I just mentioned are part of the cardiovascular renal system, the VA counts them as one disability for TDIU purposes. So then you have 60% and you have the one disability rate at 60%, you meet the initial qualifications. All right, the fourth time when multiple disabilities count as one disability for TDIU purposes, and when you have multiple disabilities from a common etiology or accident. So let's say you got into a motor vehicle accident in service. You're driving POV on the Autobahn and you crashed. As a result of the accident, you have traumatic brain injury rated at 40%. You have a neck strain rated at 20%. And you have a left shoulder injury rated at 20%. So you may think you don't qualify for TDIU based on this because you don't have a combined 70% here, although you do have the 40%. But since all these conditions came from the same etiology or accident, the motor vehicle accident in service, they count as one disability for TDIU purposes. So when you combine all these, you have 60%, and that's one disability, qualify for TDIU. Example number 5 of when multiple disabilities count as one disability for purposes of qualifying for TDIU is when you have multiple disabilities as a result of the same combat action. So let's say you experience an IED blast, which caused you PTSD, and you're 30% for that. You got a shrapnel wound in your left thigh, rated at 20%. You lost your hearing, you're rated at 10% for that. And you got 10% for tinnitus. All these came from that one IED blast. And because they came from all one IED blast, they should be counted as one disability. So when you combine all those ratings, you get 60%, and you qualify for TDIU because you now have one disability rated at 60%. All right, so those are the 5 ways of when multiple disabilities count as one disability for purposes of qualifying for TDIU. Now, I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there about TDIU. One of them being, if I could just meet the schedule requirements and I'm not working, I'll get unemployability. And that's not true. There's 2 parts of unemployability. One is meeting the initial scheduler requirements, and that's what we just talked about, different ways to meet the rating requirements. But just because you meet the rating requirements, you're not working, doesn't mean it's going to be granted. I've done other videos about substantial gainful employment. So your service-connected disabilities have to also preclude you from maintaining substantial gainful employment. So step 1, meet the rating requirements. Step 2, show you can't work due to your service-connected disabilities. Check out my other videos for more information. If you need help, visit me at vetlawoffice.com or call me at 1-800-700-4174. I'm Ed Farmer. Keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing, and as always, you have the power to change your VA plan.